And the reports this week are that they're wobbling. Page 6 or New York Post is reporting that they're now going back to Netflix saying, we've got to take huge chunks of it out. In the wake of the Queen's death, it doesn't feel appropriate. We don't maybe not want to go as hard on the family as we did. And that Netflix and the film's producers are saying, no, you said the stuff. This is the film. This is why you're getting $100 million. Too bad. So what do we think is likely to happen here?
Well, I think that what happened is they made a pact with the devil when they first got to the United States from Canada in 2020. They needed money. They wanted fame. They wanted to be able to tell their story in their terms. And I think what's changed is that in their trips to Britain, first earlier this year when they met the Queen and then certainly during the funeral, they suddenly realized that they're going to lose not just their own reputations, but I think they've been given an ultimatum. First of all, I don't think their children will get titles if they go ahead and slander the royal family. But they also have got to consider that their own titles, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, could be taken away by Charles if they misbehave. And I think that's something that Meghan and Harry are very worried about, because after all, although she pours dirt on the royal family the whole time, whenever she introduces herself, she says, I am Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. Now, with the Netflix, that is a great problem, because Netflix, of course, also reflects what's in Harry's autobiography, which has been ghosted for him. I don't know if he's actually read it, but I'm sure that it contains a lot of very damaging material about Charles, William, Kate, and of course, against Camilla, Charles's wife. And so the whole package is now really a time bomb for the royal family and filled with poison. And I think one of King Charles's greatest challenges is to somehow diffuse that time. And I think he's made various threats to Meghan and Harry, and warned them that if they go ahead, they're going to find themselves ostracized in a way which they can't believe. And so they're worried.
And yet they want their $100 million from Netflix and their reported $50 million from Spotify. And I don't know what he's gotten as the advance for his book. But I heard you with Dan Wooten saying he's going to go forward with that biography and or his memoir, whatever, autobiography. And that's full steam ahead.
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think the reports that they're wobbling might be true, but I think they might want to temper it a bit. But in the end, I think they left Britain after the Queen's funeral feeling as angry as ever, if not more, because they had been excluded from various events, especially a reception for all the 100 heads of state who came to the funeral. They had been, he had not been allowed to wear his uniform when he wanted. There was still a lot of tension, no reconciliation between them and Kate and William. So they went back to Montecito. And in my view, when the photograph of William and Charles was shown with Camilla and Kate, a very nice photograph taken on the day of the Queen's funeral, within hours, the Sussexes had released a photograph of themselves, Meghan in a red dress. And clearly this was the resumption of hostilities, but from Montecito towards the royal family and the Windsors. And
because they were calling Charles and William and their wives the Fab Four, which is what they had called Meghan and Harry and Kate and Will before their sort of breakup. And now that label's being used to describe the king and his, and the future king. So yeah, that was their response. It's sort of a middle finger.
Absolutely. And it was a good photograph, but it was a photograph saying we're a power couple. It was a photograph saying we can exist and flourish without you lot. But, Meghan's a fighter. She spent her whole life fighting, and she's fighting again now. And Harry is, I suppose, brainwashed, would be the politest way of saying it, into going along with it. He thinks that he has been badly treated. It's easy. He's the victim. It is the most astonishing story. But there's no doubt they are a great threat to the royal family. I mean, you know, Meghan's allegation in Oprah's interview that she was the victim of racism rebounded across the whole world. And one of the results of that, I think, totally untrue statement was that the Caribbean countries, which are part of the British Commonwealth, where the monarch, the Queen, now the King, is the head of state, wanted to distance themselves and become republics. That was, I think, very much fueled by Meghan's damnation, which people believed. And I think it's most unfair that the royal family is racist. I think the opposite. I think that the King has spent an enormous amount of time developing extraordinary relationships with all the diverse communities in Britain. And I must tell you that here in Britain, we think it's a bit rich for Meghan in California, a state which has got its own racial problems, to blame the British of racism. We're on the whole a pretty tolerant society.
Well, it's amazing. One of our sponsors today is Donors Trust, the principled, tax-friendly way to simplify your charitable giving. Cancel culture does not just affect comedians and commentators anymore. It also affects everyday hardworking Americans. How so? It derails their charitable giving. Take Jeannie's story, for example. Jeannie did her charitable giving through one of the big national donor-advised fund providers. That is, until, without a clear reason, it refused to send her charitable dollars to a conservative nonprofit. She shares her story this way. I'm a conservative. I believe America is great despite her imperfections, and that capitalism brings great good to society rather than government. Earlier this year, I requested another gift from my donor-advised fund, and it was rejected. Jeannie wanted a donor-advised fund that shares her conservative principles, and she found it in Donors Trust, the oldest and largest donor-advised fund committed to limited government, personal responsibility, and free enterprise. Do you want a principled partner helping you support causes close to your heart? If so, consider opening a donor-advised fund with Donors Trust. For more info on how Donors Trust can help you with your charitable giving, visit donorstrust.org/MK, and they will give you a free copy of their donor prospectus. That's DONORS Trust, donorstrust.org/MK. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.